Hello, my Math Independent Studies student. In this video, the objective is to find the greatest common factor. Now let's look at some example. But before we begin to work on the example, let's break down the phrase greatest. It means the largest. Common, it means shared. Factor is pieces. So let's look at the example 1. So in this example, we asked to factor the greatest common factor. We are given two terms, 3x squared and 6x. So the first step 1, we are going to factor each term completely. So 3x squared, we can factor them at the param 3 times x, and then 6x we can factor again at the param number 6 is the factor of 3 times 2, so 3 times 2 is 6, and then the x. Next step 2, we are going to find all factors that are in common. So you can see right here the first term 3x squared and the second term 6x, they both have 3 as a common factor, and they also have x as a common factor, so therefore 3x will be our common factor. So I'm just go ahead and underline these two factors. So the last step 3, we are going to fill out the greatest common factors and then divide each term by it. So let's look at the first term right here, 3 times x times x. So think about we factor out the common factor 3x out. So the leftover, which is 1x, because think about 3x squared divided by 3x will give you x. So this is what we mean right here. So we divide each term by the common factor. So 3x squared divided by 3x. So think right here 3 times x divide by 3 times x. So the common factor divides out and it becomes 1. So basically now you will left with 1 times x, which is x. So that's what we have. The leftover over here we have x. And the same thing for the second term, you will have 6x, right? So 6x divided by the common factor 3x. So the factor of 6x is 3 times 2 times x, and 3x 3 times x. And again, we are going to divide out the common factors. So those will give us 1. So when you're left with 1 times 2, so with 2. So that's why we have a 2 right here. Now, how do we know that we factor correctly? That you can check your answer. So you are going to check it by go ahead and distribute your greatest common factors with each one of the terms inside the parentheses. So in this case, there are 2 terms inside the parentheses. So you have 3x times x will give you 3x to the power 2. 3x times 2 will give you 6x. Now you're going to compare with the given expression. Is it the same? Yes, it is. So check. So we find the correct factor. So let's look at the next example. So again, in this example, I just make a note for you that factoring is the reverse of multiplying. So let's look at the first example here. So if we ask to factor the expression 5x minus 35, the first thing we have to look for will be we have to look for the greatest common factor. So each one of these 2 terms right here, so you can see that 5x we factor out will be 5 times x, and then 35, the factor of 35 will be 5 times 7. So now you can see right here that both terms have 5 as a common factor. So we're going to go ahead and say the greatest common factor. is 5. So we're going to factor the greatest common factor out, and then we take each one of the given term divided by the greatest common factor and put them inside the parenthesis. So that's what we have. So think about right here, we'll have 5x divided by 5. So that will give us x. So here we are, this is the x. And the next term I will do 35 divided by 5. So this will give us 7. So this is how we get number 7. And by the way, we do have a negative side. So that's why we'll bring the negative side along. Or if you can do this way, you can just bring it here, so that will give you negative 7. Okay, let's look at the next example. So in this example, we are going to factor the binomials, which is there are two terms in this expression. We have 3x squared and 27x. And again, we factor out the greatest common factor. So again, 3x squared. So I can see 3x squared is 3 times x times x. I'm going to factor there. So this is the first term, and the next term 27. So factor them at the prime, should be 3 times 9, and then times x. So you can look at here, both of these two terms, the greatest common factor will be the product of the common factor they have here, which is the 3 and then the x. So that's why we're going to go ahead and factor the 3x out, so we make enough the greatest common factor is 3x. So we factor the 3x out, and then inside parentheses, we will take each one of the given term, and then we are going to divide by the greatest common factor. So 3x squared divided by 3x. So that will give you x. And you put it here. And then 27x divided by 3x. That will give us 9. And you put here. Now there, make sure that don't forget to check your answer, which is you go back and multiply your greatest common factor with each one of the two terms inside the parentheses, and make sure you end up with the given expression. Now let's look at the next example. So in this example, you can see right here that we are given a binomial. So there are two terms. We have 12x squared, y squared, the first term, and then the second term is 32xy to the power 3. The first thing we have to do is that we have to look for the greatest common factors. So I'm going to write here 12x squared should be 12. Now 12, the prime factor of 12, you can think 12 is 2 times 2 times 3. So this is the prime factor of 12. So all these numbers, they are prime numbers. And then the x squared will be a factor at x times x with the smallest degree, which is degree 1, and y squared will be y times y. So this will be the 12x squared. Okay. Next, plus 32xy to the power 3. So again, 32, I'm going to factor them at the prime factor, so it'll be 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. And then, so now next, you will have times 2 again is 8. And then 8 times 2 is 16. 16 times 2 is 32. And then times x. And y to the power 3 will be y times y times y. So when you factor, you divide them at a smallest degree. So now I'm going to go back and see what do they have in common. So they have 2 in common. So the first, number 2, and then the next, again I have another pair of 2 in common. They don't have a 3 in common, so we stop. The next one I'm going to look for, so now they have x in common, one pair of x. And then they also have y in common, so the first y and the next y. So let's write it down now. So therefore 2x y, y. So 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times x is 4x. And then y times y is y squared. So our greatest common factor is the 4xy to the power 2. So now you can factor this out. So you put 4xy to the power 2. And then you will take each one of the term of the given term here and then divide by 4 xy squared. Okay, so think about right here. I'm going to do 12. So 12 x squared y squared divided by 4 x y squared. So this will be the first term. The next term will be 32 x y to the power 3 divided by 4 x y squared. Now we are going to simplify. So 4x y squared. Then let's simplify the first fraction. So 12 divided by 4 will give us 3. X squared divided by x will give us x. Y squared divided by y squared will be 1, so we will ignore that. So plus 32 divided by 4 give us 8. X divided by x is 1, we ignore this. And y squared, y to the power 3 divided by y squared will give us y. So that's it. That will be the factor. And of course you can check it by distribute your greatest common factor to each one of the two terms inside the parentheses, multiply it out. And then make sure that you end up with the given expression. So this will be the conclusion for this video. I will see you in class. Goodbye. Make sure you write out the summary.